Welcome to the Always On podcast. I am your host, Duncan MacPherson. On this podcast, our objective is to enable our audience, which are high caliber fee-for-service professionals, to always be working on their business and on themselves, personally and professionally. On today's podcast, I had a great conversation with Peter Dobrich. Peter is the president at Private Financial Group. He lives in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I've known Peter for decades. And in this episode, we discussed what it means to be the advisor of the future. Peter personifies the evolution from having a book of business to an actual business. He still takes financial planning seriously. He still thinks of himself as a financial advisor, but he also thinks of himself as a CEO, adopting and deploying best practices that create a consistent client experience, create efficiency and consistency. So I hope you enjoy this quick chat. And if you like this podcast, please like and share, tell your colleagues. And of course, if you have any ideas or topics you'd like to hear in the future, just let us know. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. I couldn't be more excited about this upcoming conversation with Peter Dobrich, the financial professional in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Peter personifies what it means to be the advisor of the future. I've known Peter for it's got to be 20 years now. And long ago, he evolved far beyond what it means to have a book of business. Peter thinks of it as a business. He's not an advisor. He is a CEO. I mean, financial planning and being an advisor to his clients is part of his repertoire and part of his process, but he is elevated so dramatically. Peter's got clients throughout Ontario and in other parts of Canada, but I can't wait to share with you and have this exchange so you can understand his progression and evolution. So Peter, thanks very much for being here.
Great to be on the call, Duncan. Thank you.
So I just want to ask you, when did you make the connection that you're not working in your business, transacting, trading time for money? You're working on your business. You're an entrepreneur and you're building something. Where did that come from?
Well, first of all, I got so much advice or watching my business owner clients move to that role, and the ones, more importantly, who didn't, right? Mm-hmm. So, you can see the effects of it. I grew up in a family business and saw what went right and what didn't go right just the same. And more importantly, we go to business school, we finish, the training, but there's nothing like learning from, a live experience. So I grew up in a family business, and I finished business school in Windsor. And then my father and I were pretty much the same personality, so it wouldn't have worked out. And he always pushed me to try and do something on my own. So, and that's the route I took. So I started and got into business early, and the old school way of just kind of grinding and building relationships. And I locked on, the referral process early that really was profound on how we grow the business. And then I looked quickly later on as I grew, and then just watched what the good business owners were doing as they transitioned to a CEO. I did have a small opportunity. Well, it wasn't small, but I did have an opportunity to be part of owning an OHL franchise, the Windsor Spitfires. Why this is important to bring up is because my two partners that I were in the business with, one being Bob Ugner and Warren Reichel, but I guess the issue is we had specific skill sets, and we really respected each other's opinion in that area and brought that skill set. And it took us to another level on bringing professionalism to a hockey franchise. So we ran it like an NHL franchise. We brought the right people in, and then obviously as time went on, We won 2 national championships and really built that franchise into a enviable franchise in Canada, not just in the OHL. We got involved with building a new facility, which was a legacy thing for us, because now it's a brand new facility with 3 other rinks in it. And, it was important for us to watch, kind of that evolved. So as I went through that process, I took a deep dive on my business and constantly pushed myself to be in a CEO role mentality. And that's what pushed us to, start relationships and bringing the right people to the table. So.
Yeah, and I admire the restraint in not mentioning one of the teams that your hockey team beat, because that's still too soon. Just for context, everybody, the Windsor Spitfires beat the Kelowna Rockets in the Memorial Cup, which is arguably the hardest trophy to win in sports. Yeah, I remember that vividly. Not happy about it, but congratulations on that. But yeah, so you've got best practices, professional development running through your veins. It's part of your DNA. Nothing resides in your heads. Everything documented, standardized, professionalized. And the fact that you come from the entrepreneur pedigree, that world, and then you've owned businesses outside of financial services, just adds a lot of credibility. And I want to get to your organic growth model and how you've gone up market to consistently attract a business owner client yourself. But before I do that, I want to talk about your approach, because one of the many things I've admired about you over the years is that you've been perpetually focused on establishing professional contrast, whether you're dealing with prospective clients, existing clients. And I think one of the ways that I think is the most impressive is that you've built a proprietary process that combines what it means to be a needs-based professional with a goals-based professional, in terms of your deliverable. So talk to us a little bit about your proprietary process for your clients and how they've reacted to that.
I think 2020 with the COVID year enlightened many people in different ways. And for us, we had always built a process. We had a financial planning process that we took people through that include a specific fit meeting for us. That's critical and should be in everybody's, practice. And that allows us to, really take a deep dive and understanding of that client, because we just don't let everyone on the ark, right? We're not everything for everyone, but we're everything for a few. So we took a deep dive and just looked for gaps and opportunities. And we said we needed to build this brand, and it's called your Life Print Formula. And really, simply, it takes people through the 7 pillars of what we believe the financial planning process is. And at the end of the day, they can't outgrow it. Their circumstances just change, or the critical financial events change, and we just help them adapt, right? So I think what we understand our role to be is they're not buying into a sales process. They're buying into a client engagement. And we have a specific person in, team member that embraces that total client experience. And we love being part of it, because it allows us to really grow our relationship deeper, not just based on rates of return. And it helps bring meaning to money. Like, what's really the driving factor? And those of you who are aware or not aware, that formula includes that acronym FORM, and that's your family, occupation, recreation, and money. We can never forget about it, because that gives us that contrast to, if you ask one of our clients, what makes us different, and that's the critical side. The same note, Duncan, if we're talking about a proprietary process, it now allows us to build intellectual property in our business as well, and branding, and brand within the brand. And it's important because our industry is always focused on assets under administration. And it's a matter of opinion whether you agree or not, but if we're not, why aren't we doing what other companies are doing as well, and building intellectual property, so down the road, the advisor or the CEO can become more obsolete, as we build that team around that process. And now all of a sudden, it's not Peter Dobrich, it's Private Financial Group, and their driven process that just works over time.
Yeah, I love that, because as we've said, you and I over the years, like, it's not the Peter show. Your clients don't just like and trust you.
Right.
They embrace the practice and the client experience, and they embrace the process. And I think part of the sifting to establish if there's a fit and an alignment is that it helps you identify the clients that want liberation and order. Like, they don't need to know everything you know. They just need to know that you know. Versus some of the clients, they don't care about that qualitative stuff. They just want to get into the weeds and micromanage and hold you accountable to every statement that rolls by, which is clearly not a good fit. But it's interesting that you mentioned, because, like, financial services was the last to adopt email. And it was the last of all the different sectors to adopt best practices. But those that adopted it, those early adopters, have really put distance between themselves and others. And I'm going to assume that your mindset and approach has made you more attractive to those business owner clients and helped you grow up market, because you can relate to them on a multitude of levels, not just investment acumen, but a day in the life of being a business owner. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what does it matter what business you're in? Policies, procedures, systems, and constantly adjusting them and adapting to what's going on. And we're talking about the future of the advisor or the advisory firm. And if we're not embracing it, I'm not sure, where that ends up. And a couple of points here, as most advisors, like other business owners, we see that most of their net worth is embedded in their business. And they're not doing the little things to help drive the value of their business to the maximum without saying, all I'm worried about is this, my exit strategy. It's not worrying about that. It's doing the things that are necessary to be able to drive value. And if we're doing it, I can talk about it. I spent some time with some client business owners this weekend here. And that was the biggest discussion on what we're doing and what's happening, and around how do we look for these little pockets, because business owners are very good at what they do. As they grow out of their element potentially, and they're not bringing the people in. I believe it's the same thing for financial advisors. As the pressure comes, as the business changes, they need to adapt quickly, or at least align yourself with someone who is doing it. And that's what I feel where we're at right now, is we're in a position to duplicate our process, because many people would like to still be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. And
okay, so sorry to cut you off, but that is a perfect segue, because many financial professionals find themselves on a collision course with a plateau, because their heads are down, they're working, they're transacting, but they haven't opened up that next level of capacity. And this is something that we've seen, where if financial professionals can reduce some of the workload through automation, allocation, delegation, all of these different elements to liberate them to expand capacity with process, what that's done for you is opened up a pivot from taking your B2C, business to client, organic approach with investment clients to, as a proof of concept, to a business to business. So now you are in a position to engage financial professionals and address their unmet needs. I mean, the last 3 years have confirmed that there are some advisors that are on a collision course with obsolescence. They're not viable. There's too much minutia, the compliance obligations, they don't have scale, and they themselves are looking to liberation and order. So now you've got this playbook and this process that another advisor can adopt and draft in behind that liberates them to focus on the things in this business that they enjoy doing. That's going to be pretty gratifying.
It is. We can always reference. We have everything in place. What we believe is a platform. We always challenge ourselves to make sure we're including the important things always. But yeah, we have a platform that allows someone, and this is my next point. It's not about just driving numbers and get more assets and more assets and more assets. And some people might have a different opinion on that. But you have the bigger financial institutions that are compressing commissions or fees, and maybe these people just don't feel like being under that environment anymore. They're great individuals and they want, as you say, liberation or that balance in their life. So it allows them to adopt all of our processes, from our planning process or proprietary process to, our relationship with Q Wealth, Quintessence Wealth. We're a portfolio management firm, and we have a second to none technology portal, client portal that is in place, as well as our content marketing. So if we go back to hockey, listen, as long as they can skate, we can teach them to play hockey. And we've got great people, good communicators, want to be part of their community. We have it ready to go, and still have relationships, mastermind meetings, and for us to get together and mentor and push ourselves, what I believe, in the balance part of our life, not the revenue part. So we all have meaning for what we're doing. My gosh, let's get focused on the meaning part of why you're in the practice. And that would just easily goes to your clients and they feel the difference. My last point on trust, and this is something I've been thinking about lately, but if we can think about being on a small sailboat, and there's a terrible storm that comes in, I always trust. I'm on that boat because I trust the person who's driving it, right? You trust the boat. It's one of those tours. But boy, when that wave comes in, now all of a sudden my trust alters and says, do I trust his ability to get us out of this, right? Yes, hold on for a long term. So what I'm saying to you is, as we think about relationships we want to be in, that would be my differentiator, to be able to say, hey, we've got this. We can get through this. We've adopted a relationship with you, Duncan, and Pareto a long time ago, and continue to use it as we all drive ourselves for the right reasons. So it's a bit of a long-winded point, but I really think that that's what needs to be on people's plate. What life do I want to have? What's the meaning for all of this? And I need to do this for myself and my families, while I still believe I'm part of something that's got meaning and there's legacy, and I really want to be part of something different.
A customized podcast can add credibility and efficiency to your communication efforts. Sifting good prospects from the mass of suspects, staying top of mind with strategic partners, and activating more advocacy from existing clients can be achieved with a turnkey approach. Learn more at proudmouth.com. Do you aspire to consistently attract and keep great clients while driving the enterprise value of your business? Do you want to achieve professional contrast by supplementing your technical ability with a consistent client experience driven by best practices? The Blue Square Toolkit brings the proven Pareto Systems philosophy and process to life in a way that tethers your team so that you can competitor-proof your clients, gain their full empowerment, and attract quality referrals, all while restoring liberation and order in your life, and all in an intuitive, easy-to-use, turnkey solution. Visit bluesquaretoolkit.com to get your 14-day free trial today.
Well, and you can't overlook the power of the law of environment. I mean, we are products of our environment. The people we associate with either pull us down or propel us forward. It seems, I've recognized that everybody in life especially recently, is either a fountain of optimism or a drain of negativity. And both are very powerful forces, but I do really appreciate the point about not just belonging, but that you made about balance. And I think one of the most impressive parts of the balance dynamic is that sweet spot between high tech and high touch. Technology can be incredibly powerful, and when a fully built out suite and tech stack is deployed, it's not just the efficiency. It enables the financial professional to embrace high touch in the relationship. That is becoming a big gap. We talked about this last time we were on the phone, that the more technology creeps into our lives, the more the human touch actually stands out. AI will never have EI, the emotional intelligence.
Right.
And clients and professionals want a combination of the two. So let me ask you this. Who is the ideal advisor who would see the merit in adopting and drafting in behind your build-out process? Define that person.
I think I have to revisit the point I made earlier about wanting to be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. I think it's important. I think it's important because they want to feel like the framework's there for a couple of reasons. Compliance is really, really driving frustration. Whether we agree with it or not, it's a fact and we have to manage it. Well, we've got that covered, right? So that person who's looking for opportunity, a true partnership, right, to be part of something, but something that's focused on them first, not everyone else. So we don't have to meet certain goals or things to get compensated how we would like to. We have a model that allows them to build a business that's customized to what they want and allow them to have the life that they want, right? And again, bringing that meaning to what we're looking at. I mean, naturally, they expect us. One of the things about being a PM firm is we have access to alternative investments and different things that aren't available to the retail market. And that differentiates yourselves. Again, you mentioned about technology. Naturally, you expect to have the technology. One of the things with Quintessence Wealth that I think is critical is we always take our clients, busy clients, business clients, and try and do what? Make their life easier. So they've adopted many technologies that allow them to consolidate all their things into a data lake, their financial plans in there. One of the other benefits is we can outsource the portfolio management. Having the model portfolios and be able to sit down and say, allow me to focus on the high touch. And that's really getting to know their clients. They expect the rate of returns. They expect certain planning to be, following it up. But what they don't expect is for us to be taking a deep dive on what the meaning of this, what's important, what's their function of assets, and building that other side, that right brain, if we want to call it, in their relationship. So I guess what I'm looking for is the type of advisory firm that just says, hey, this is something that we want to, have a look at. And this makes sense for us, the balance, but having some independence.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think it comes down to who you're suited for, because it's not for everybody. Not everybody is entrepreneurial. Some people would rather be in an environment where everything is just basically looked after and they're not overly concerned about this entrepreneurial liberation and order sort of mindset. But for those who are thinking about, like you said, personal fulfillment, a sense of purpose, deeper engagement and relevance with their clients, and a sense that they're building something. They're not transacting. It's not transactional. It's directional. It's going somewhere. There's a culmination effect. I think that's very important. The thing I really want advisors to consider, you've got 24 hours in a day. You got 5 days in a work week. What I would love to see happen for you is by adopting a process, it actually puts more sand in your hourglass. It's like giving you 10 hours back every week because you're outsourcing things that are commoditized or things that you don't have scale on, and liberating yourself to focus on what you really enjoy doing, which is working with clients. But now let's talk about this more in depth. So we've talked about this. There is an acronym, PSP. So who are you suited for? It's an advisor with a philosophical, strategic, and practical alignment of interests. So let's break that down. So if you were to connect with an advisor who's saying, hey, look, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to spin my wheels. I want to draft in behind your process. The first thing you would focus on is the philosophical connection, the alignment that you both see the world the same way. And I think one of the core elements of that is there's no salesmanship in your approach. It's all stewardship. You're not asking a client to buy a product, you're asking them to buy into a process. Would that be a safe starting point?
Absolutely. And there's been a slight disconnect depending on where your training comes from. Let's be honest. We talk about people when they have learned experience in a household as young. Certain things just happen and it takes time to alter. If someone has had training from a banking institution versus an insurance company, that would come out in that process of that, high touch discussion, because that's hard to change. And when you have people who are just systematically said, this is what you got to do, that's going to be important, because that behavioral change will have to happen, and the trust to adopt the process initially, in my opinion. There's always a saying of anyone can, a hardworking guy can chop a tree down with a ball-peen hammer, but there's one guy or girl sitting there sharpening it for 2 hours, takes two swings at it, goes and plays golf. It's the same outcome. You can choose what you want to do. I really feel that there's a better way. So.
It's funny you should say that. I don't know if you've seen this, because sharpen the axe, right? Spend more time sharpening the axe.
Right.
But now, I don't know if you've seen this, that there's this device where the blade of the axe is inverted within a cylinder. You drop the log in and tap it with a hammer and it splits automatically. It's so impressive. So who would have thought that innovation could have come to an axe? And yet it has. This is a new device. I want one because it's so fast, so precise, so efficient, and safe. There's no risk. So interesting analogy. But it's interesting you talk about, some people have not been in business for themselves, let alone by themselves. They've been in an environment where they paid for it in many ways. One of them is that the safety net of effectively being an employee became a hammock of complacency. They plateaued. Your ideal advisor is somebody who still yearns for an entrepreneurial environment where they can build something. So that's a big philosophical distinction. Now let's go to the strategic. The ultimate driver of the strategic alignment and fit is that all roads lead to what's in the best interest of the client. Okay. So like, for example, Peter, and I'm sure I've said this to you over the years, but I say to a lot of my clients, I want you to pretend that there's a client listening in on this conversation. Is that all of this contributing to an elevated client experience for them? This applies to this type of discussion. Like, it's not the advisor selling a business or changing environments. It's how does this transition elevate the client experience? That's a big part of the strategic fit process, where you can show an advisor where the gaps are, where the unmet needs are, and how their clients will benefit. And as a part of the cause and effect dynamic, how that will actually lead to uncovering veins of gold of untapped opportunity, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've taken this process that we develop for our clients, again, they buy into a process and engagement with us. It shouldn't be any different with another advisor because it's duplicable, right? And as you see, I started out with, what I believe, what we're looking for, not to influence someone else, but what I believe where things are going and what people should be able to embrace to say that's something, again, I want to be part of because they've simplified and proceduralized and strategically set up, hey, this is what works, but there's also opportunity for them to adjust it to their way. I mean, it's customizable for sure, but that's what allows us to be able to be flexible, adapt, and quite frankly, that's part of the pulse of the call is trying to adapt for the future and where the advisory business is going. And so I think it's important.
Well, absolutely. And then, of course, okay, so you have the philosophical alignment, the strategic alignment, and then the practical. And there are so many layers or currencies in the practical aspect of the conversation. It just comes down to the economics. So one of them is, and I've seen this countless times, where an advisor has identified a new environment. They've transitioned from the old environment to the new environment. They've adopted the process. They've transitioned their clients, reframed and rejuvenated the relationships, took a $65 million business and turned it into an $85 million business by just going into that motion. And the key performance indicator from clients was, this is great. I'm really happy for you. This environment seems so much better. Why didn't you do this 5 years ago? Because it seems so great. That's a big element of the practical part of the conversation, right?
So we could talk long about that, but I mean, this is a really important because my business owner clients expect me to be pushing myself forward and not staying complacent. They aren't. Why is my advisor? So if we're not challenging, and that was kind of the response from a couple of my clients was like, yeah, we get it. We see it and we agree with it. This isn't a thing about trying to go and sell my business somewhere else and take, get some opportunity from that perspective. No, we found a better way to deliver what we've been doing, and we had great response from our clients. It wasn't easy. We got complacent. I'm pretty loyal. I was with my previous firm for almost 27 years. I'm loyal. But when that firm, and this is an important point, Duncan, we're sitting and we were being very patient and waiting. And one of the challenges with the bigger firms is they just have so much legacy technology. They just can't embrace the changes quick enough. And that allowed us to do it. It was with great response that we got that. So the nail you're sitting on may not hurt anymore, but the rust is going to give you, might be the biggest impact by saying, am I ready to do this regardless? And does it make sense for me? And my clients, everyone was worried about how their clients are going to respond. It was received very well by our clients for the change because they expect us to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, that's really good. And so just to sort of round that out, if I'm an advisor, I don't have to sell you my business. I could just move and draft in behind and adopt your process and deploy it, put more sand in my hourglass, elevate my client experience, elevate my productivity, all boats rise. But is there also a scenario where it could be a sell and stay? Where maybe I'm an advisor and I want to de-risk a little bit. I want to take some chips off the table. Can I sell my business to you? Would you acquire my business to let me stick around for 3 to 5 years and enjoy the sunset of my career? Is that part of your model?
Yes, for sure. I mean, that is part of the model. That's easy. And more importantly, we have a a method, by how they can structure specifically people who are working in the banking in institutions, that you're getting full value, but more importantly, it's a tax-driven decision now. So there's different methods on how you can sell your business, or you have a succession plan put in place. We can help with that for sure. And my gosh, it's a phone call. We're more of a sounding board because you have all your life's work for the most part in that business, and not to be able to make sure that you get the best well-rounded advice on that is silly to me. So that's an important part of it.
Many entrepreneurs are that proverbial 25-year overnight success story. And I've seen many advisors that the proverbial hockey stick or inflection point where the first 20 years of their careers was very methodical. And then that transition in terms of environment and all the liberation that came from that, they were never more productive, never more purposeful, never more relevant than since going through that rejuvenational exercise. So good to know. And your point about being a sounding board. So I know you're really big on legacy. You care a lot about the advisor community in Canada. So if I'm an advisor, could I just call you up and have a conversation without any expectation that this needs to go anywhere, just to get a different set of eyes on my trajectory and just a different perspective? Are you open to that?
Of course I am. It makes sense. And if it's just a discussion, it's a discussion. However, it's important. I am, on LinkedIn and, other areas, but yeah, if we can organize a phone call and we can take care of that. And then the next part of that would be, we have a fit process that we would go through utilizing Pareto and you, Duncan, for that opportunity. So, and they could reach out and have no problem having a discussion on it. It makes sense for me.
Yeah, perfect. So that's the best way for somebody to connect with you is on LinkedIn, or they just do a search on your business and track it down?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, well, beautiful. All right, Peter. Well, I always end every conversation with you when I hang up. I go, yeah, I got a lot from that, and that this is definitely aligned with that. So thank you. We'll have to do this again. And everybody, if you want to see the before and after of Peter Dobrich and the enterprise he's developed, I highly recommend you give him a call. I mean, there's certain things you can't learn in a simulator. They're experiential. And if there's an opportunity where you don't need to reinvent the wheel and you can draft in behind his efficiency and his consistency, I highly recommend it. So with that, Peter, thank you very much for your time. Any closing comments?
No, I just think that if at the end of the day, if you're sitting there, and we've all been there, in that decision or inflection point about what type of life do I want to have? What's the real meaning for the, my practice and where I'm heading? And it's worth a discussion always, right? As we always say, sometimes minor adjustments can have a huge impact. And that's what we're talking about. So,
yeah, beautiful. Okay, then. Well, you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much, and we'll have you back soon.
Thanks, Duncan. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you for listening to Always On with Duncan MacPherson, where our objective is to enable professionals to always be working on their business and on themselves. Want to learn more about Duncan and his team? Visit ParetoSystems.com. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the hosts and/or guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Pareto Systems. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast is powered by Proudmouth, the Influence Accelerators. If you're like me and want to spend more time educating people and less time selling, Proudmouth helps turn Main Street experts like you into trusted mainstream authorities. They will help amplify your influence over a growing audience of magnetically attracted fans. Visit proudmouth.com to learn more.